back in the day, our rehearsal was always at Oaks Library. And so I would get there early. And I remember at the time, I was going through a lot. I was dealing with my first breakup ever. I was dealing with my biological father coming back in my life, and that was very toxic, very harmful for me. And those conversations, trying to really understand that side of the family and trying to resolve like 18 plus years of trauma. And not to mention of trying to navigate college and what it meant to be like a first gen. And so I remember going to practice that one night, and I was just feeling really overwhelmed. And when one of the upperclassmen, when Paul stopped by and just asked me, like, "Hey, Arlen, like, how are you doing?" I just break down. I'm like, "I'm not doing good." And I remember like when the other folks started coming through, like whether it's Phil or PJ or Bev or Julie May, I'm just gonna name everyone like Val, Roy, Hugh, Tyrone, Linda, Arthur, Leslie, or Melissa. Like when they all got there and they were seeing how I was doing, they're like, "We got your back. Like you don't have to go back to your dorms like after this. Like you can just kick it with us. Like we got you." And that was a very like transformative and powerful moment for me because in that moment, like when I fell at my lowest in my first year, that I was surrounded by people that helped me feel that I mattered, that I was important. And if anything, they were folks that I call as my second family. And it's funny because like when I was like preparing for like today, like I was trying to find the very first picture um that I had with them, and like I found it. And so it's like, this is like over at Oaks Learning Center. So I think this was like right after auditions, but I knew like I wanted to find this picture, and I knew I wanted to share like their names and who they are because I think like I wouldn't be here without them. Um FSA back then and how it's evolved over the years, like one of the concepts that still stays the same is that it feels really big. Like there's like a lot of people, and it's really intimidating to figure out like where do you like belong in this 200 or so folks. And with the different performing aspects, there's ways where you can make a bigger community feel a lot more intimate, like within the smaller community. And when I felt that like I matter, that was important, I felt a deeper connection with everyone, that I wanted to have stronger relationships with them, and that I felt that I had to pay it forward. And so that moment was very pivotal because that was the seed for me to want to be a leader within our community. That like I can only imagine that other folks within the space may not feel that they're important or that they feel like no one cares about them. And I knew that like becoming like people power co-coordinator or PCC 19 co-chair, like my goal at that time was to ensure that every community member that I interacted with, that I wanted them to feel that they were important, that they also matter too. Because if we really say that this is a community, how do we really practice it? How do we really embody it? And so like for me, like a lot of the way that I led and still lead to this day is really rooted in my heart and my love for our community, for our peoples. And I wouldn't be here without that love that my people power family showed me. Um, and it just trips me out. And I don't know, like it I can I don't know, like I feel like I'm just stumbling on words because the feelings I still carry to this day. Like I just know how life changing that moment was, and if any of them are listening to this, um, even though I may not have said it to all of you, um, y'all are still important to me. And I know I always tell this story to like a lot of like the current like generation of Neon folks, but I don't know, like you never know like what impact that you can have on someone. and how it could transform them and change their lives, and in turn, like how that can further impact the space, impact the community. Um, but I don't know, like that was as vivid as I can remember, like with my time back in the space.
Well,
Um,
first and foremost, looking back and when we were putting this together, we just wanted to put a show together, to have something to be proud of, to have something that we like to do it. It was fun, right? It was fun, and then you showcase it, and then it kept you procrastinating from doing your homework. um, so none of I didn't really think, and no one really thought that it was gonna run for this long. Tell you the truth, every year we grew and we learned, and obviously one of the things that we grew and learned from is funding. When you do this sort of stuff, you need money, and the university needs to give you money, or you need to figure out how to fund these things. And then there's this thought about, well, how do you then pass it on from generation to generation, year after year? Because at that time, we didn't really have a place to, for example, keep all the things we accumulated, right? You imagine we had costumes, we had props and stuff like that. And as FSA and PDT, we weren't an organization in campus that was recognized to have a facility to store this stuff. So guess what? It's stored in students' apartments, right? And then the next generation of core gets to keep it for the next year, and then so on and so forth. In fact, I think back in the 25th anniversary, I was there. Myself and my wife and my two kids at the time, we spoke in front of PCC 25. We did a quick teach-in during the practice, right? And back then, I also donated a drum. I don't know if you still have the drum, but I donated a percussion, a drum that you can use for some of the dances. Um, but none of us thought that it was going to run this long. And every time we know of friends and family that were thinking about a university, we always recommended go to UCSC. It's great there, right? Um, so it makes me certainly happy to see that it's continued. Something that I could say, hey, look, we started that. Right? It's kind of a claim to fame. But more important than saying that's something that we started is the fact that it continued. And I know it continues to contribute in the betterment of the lives of students that's coming through the university. Whether or not you see yourself, because at this age and time, when I was at that age and time, I was looking to solidify my identity as well. And something like this really gave me a direction to where to search. And so, if anything, to see it grow to where it is today really makes me proud and makes me happy, that what we intended to do from the passions of our hearts actually bore more fruit than more than what we could have intended it to be, right?
I think in its most general sense is something that you can leave behind, be it big or small, like a silly tradition or like a certain phrase or like even memories that you leave behind, and and then you look back into the future and you're like, dude, I was a part of that. Like I started that, or like I was there when it happened, or um, I helped nurture it and I helped it grow. So for me, that's what legacy is. I see, something that I can leave behind that I know I can trust others into helping nurture and grow. Like how our predecessors before me and Riofa, they left us this space to take care of, or like your space now, Lanihan, to take care of, make better, make bigger. And when we left, we also entrusted it to the future generations, our successors, right? That's the right word. Yeah, successors to take care of and make better, make bigger, um, leave behind their own legacies, or like uh, help pass down like other legacies from the past. Um, yeah, yes, yes. There you go.
Me, legacy is definitely making an impact. So I guess I'll take it as a concept. Um, and man, yeah, that was definitely my thing from when I was PCC 29 co-chair, I really wanted to leave a lasting legacy. I think like even though I myself I'm not Filipino, I know that it's it's like a it's like a problem in the not in the community or the culture, but just like not having it be as visible as a lot of other cultures. Um, and so I know how big of an impact PCC is for a lot of folks, especially in the community, because it's like a time where they get to showcase their own culture and be proud of it, and just identify with your roots, especially since a lot of like Filipino and Filipinx folks don't really get the opportunity to do that when they're younger. So sometimes PCC is their way of like getting to know themselves and their own history. And so I guess for me, like I really want to do that. I really want to help people like be proud of themselves and like find their roots, um, and just overall leave that lasting impact. I think that's really important because it could have been like a small moment, it could have been a big moment. As long as you have that impact or that spark, that's like, yeah, I don't know, that was most important to me. Sorry if that made like no sense. That was very hard to like it's just such a it's a very like open-ended concept, I guess.
Mhm.
Like I guess, in short, what I'm trying to say is that for me, legacy was in Bai Nihon is mostly just about like creating that impact to help others find who they are and be proud of themselves.